Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, October 7th, 2024. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I asked the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7:05 p.m. and we apologize for the brief delay, which were due to technical reasons. A warm welcome is extended to councillor, staff delegations, and observers who will participate in this meeting, regardless of whether being physically in attendance in the council chamber in Listowel or being connected through web technologies. We begin tonight's meeting with the playing of O Canada. Those in chambers, as able, are invited to stand. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after this meeting as an archived video. To those who are viewing via the YouTube channel, a warm welcome to you. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. Thank you. At this time, I invite your decorum. Over the course of the coming meeting, you can see that all councillors are in their seats in the chamber in Listowel. Let us move to item 5 of our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. Members of council have full lives with engagements in the community. Sometimes they may find themselves with a potential financial or pecuniary interest in an item at the council table. Provincial legislation mandates that councillors declare this interest and in so doing avoid direct involvement in the consideration or voting on the item. I invite all councillors with a perceived pecuniary interest, including those who have already so declared in writing, to verbally advise the chair in public session. Documentation is to be submitted, if not already done, pursuant to council procedures. Councillors may declare now or at any point in the meeting should such interest be recognized. I have in my notes that Councillor Nordum has a declaration he'd like to make tonight. Councillor Nordum, the floor is yours. Yours works? Okay, we're still having AV issues, it would appear. So it looks like this side of the council table has microphone service and this side might not. I wonder if we could deploy the mobile microphones. It may complicate things, but, or summon our technologist for this purpose. Councillor Nordum, you're welcome to go to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor Kaisenberg. Good evening, Council, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll declare pecuniary interest on item 8.2 and 12.1 and the confirmatory bylaw 17.1. I have own property that is relatively close to the applicant. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Nordum. Does anyone else wish to make a declaration at this time? Sorry for the rigmarole there. We'll figure it out. I see our IT guru coming, so let's hope that this can be resolved shortly. All right. So as chair of the meeting, I'm of course managing the flow of proceedings tonight and largely in accord with our agenda and rules of procedure. Some may be participating remotely by web conference. Should they wish to speak, they may draw the attention of the clerk to this using the conferencing technologies chat function. If technical difficulties arise for remote participants, I will advise and send help. Let's now focus on the people's business. Part of that focus is achieved when those in chamber silence and put away their mobile phones. Regarding item 6 of our agenda, I have a resolution for consider to approve the agenda as follows. The agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Anstead, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Blazek. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's move forward to item 7 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. Consent items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be non-contentious, yet they may warrant council's recognition and/or action. Grouping them expedites our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and individual action may do so. There are 8 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, anything to extract here or any corrections to the minutes that you seek? Okay, I'm not seeing any indication of that, so let's have the resolution for our consideration as follows. The consent items 7.1 to 7.8 be received for information, and the minutes of the September 16, 2024 regular council meeting be adopted. Can I call for a mover on this one? Moved by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Andreessen. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this? Seeing none, let's have that vote. He's getting closer and closer to me. I don't know what's going to happen next. And that is carried. All right. I'm tempted to let you sit in my chair there, Simon. You know. All right. Let's move forward then to agenda item number 8. Our agenda indicates that we'll hold 3 public meetings pertaining to land planning matters tonight. For the purpose of executing these public meetings, I use my discretion as head of council to announce a recess that will last the duration of the public meetings. All right, let's turn to our public meeting procedures. For the first one, this is a public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for a proposed amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. This is a statutory public meeting to deal with application for zoning bylaw amendment number Z04-2023 submitted by Michael and Zachary Vanderboer for property described as part lots 25, 26, and 69, Plan 273, Elmo Ward, Municipality of North Perth, municipally known as 215 Winstanley Street in Moncton. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding this application will be considered by council. Those in attendance remotely wishing to make comment concerning this application will be given the opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal council's decision in this matter must make verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to the council. Those wishing to receive notice of the decision regarding this application must notify the clerk via email, telephone, or by utilizing the public meeting sign-in sheet, which is located at the back of the council chambers, and they need to provide their mailing address and telephone number. This time I'm going to call for a summary of this application, which will be offered by Nathan Garland, a planner for the County of Perth who works on North Perth files and is very familiar to us. Welcome tonight, Mr. Garland.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, members of North Perth Council. As referenced, I am here to present application BZ4 2023. Council has seen this application previously. However, we did do an additional review of the application along with some work on the septic system, looking at that and just some additional information on the hydrogeology. So we've reissued a notice of public meeting again, so this is a second time around for this application for Council's consideration. Just a little bit of an outline of the subject land. So that is the old office building in Moncton. So just located north of the main intersection along Winstanley Street in Moncton. So it's on the eastern side of Winstanley. A couple of the previous photos, these are taken from last year. So you'll see that the current building is in a bit of disrepair and they're looking to change this to be a residential use. So it is a bit of a conversion from the former institutional use to a residential use in this area. Mainly they're looking to repurpose the existing building. So not much change to the existing building that is there. It is a tight lot, and I will reference that through the report. A couple pictures from the backside. So that's just the area the septic system is to be proposed and is probably currently located. And then some future work along that one side. I believe they've already removed a bit of a ramp that was located there previously. So some of the drawings and pictures show there was a bit of an access ramp located there. That's been taken away. Currently there just is a side deck there right now. These are some of the plans for the future construction. So the removal of that side deck, you'll note it's now located at the rear of the building. That area outlined in green is their proposed parking area. As I mentioned, fairly tight property. They are proposed just one parking spot right now. There wouldn't be a huge area there for it, but just squeezes in there. Just for council's consideration, this was one of the references and information provided. This is an area of the septic location, so just at the back of the building. It will be up to the building department to confirm that, but we're just providing this for council's information to show that it is tight there, but they are showing a general plan that shows that the septic will fit in the rear of the area. Council may have recalled this, I just kept this in there. It is on the smaller side, so it is probably one of the smaller lots that are located. However, there is a number of 600 square meter lots that are located throughout Moncton. So this is not quite outside the range, so it doesn't drop down, not large by any means, but also there is some 600 square meter lots throughout Moncton. So it does fit within that range for the septic system and servicing area. One of the requests and conditions for this was to let's look at the updated survey mapping to provide an updated survey, because there was some question just around how's it all going to fit, making sure that the lot lines were shown correctly. So the applicants have gone out and they provided, this is the copy of the updated survey. You will notice that the building does slightly extend onto what's shown as part one there. That's a bit of an easement, it looks like, provides some access towards the back. There will be a parking area located over top of that easement, which is, it does occur in some areas, parking over top of an easement. The building would be likely legal non-conforming subject to that. But yeah, there is that updated survey plan does provide a better reference, specifically when they go to do some of the servicing and construction works. They now have those iron bars noted for that. The comments provided, their MTO did provide a number of comments, so they've provided a list of requirements and requests. These are fairly typical of MTOs, so a building and land use permit, entrance permit, encroachment permit, sign permit if required, and just some general comments around requested or recommended for a new survey, which they have provided. And then should the closure be required for the sidewalk, they are asking for a bit of a construction plan for that, just to allow for pedestrian access to be maintained. Neighboring comments provided from the adjacent residents. Concerns just with encroachment for construction. They've noted it, and we agree that the property is quite tight, so they will have some mitigation factors to deal with that, demarcation, noting, soil movement, etc. So that is a concern, and appropriately so, just because of the smaller lot and then the close configuration of the existing building. Also to note, there is a catch basin close by, and I will show that in the future reference plan, and then just the lot line locations also, and they've provided a survey for that. There's just an older copy of that survey plan, so you'll note the catch basin. I've tried to outline that. It's just located north of the existing property, so it's a bit of ways away from the septic that's being proposed, so it doesn't seem to encroach. It's not right at the very corner of the property or something on that nature. Staff, as mentioned, staff are supportive of the application moving forward. We have looked at the water and sewerage, so the water is a shared well with individual septic provided. We are requesting a rezoning to address the minimum lot size. That's one of the criteria, so we are looking at that and asking council to consider the lot size appropriate. They have provided access off Winstanley Street. It is within the existing neighborhood that provides some residential uses, so it's not within directly a commercial or an institutional area. So it does meet the existing criteria of having a residential uses surrounding the subject lands. And therefore, it is my recommendation that North Perth receives the report and that North Perth would consider this for approval. I'm happy to address or answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garland. Let's turn to the clerk and to you if needed with regards to details of the notice of this public meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, through you. Public notice was circulated on September 17th. It was also posted on the property and on the municipal website on September 17th.
You're sitting down, but the next question is also, I think, for you, which is if you might share any information, the inputs we've had, correspondence, comments, and reports received pertaining to this application.
I have not received any correspondence. One neighboring property owner is in attendance.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Garland, comments on this one?
The original application did provide some MTO comments, so nothing more further than the two comments that we provided from the MTO and the neighboring property owner.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is the opportunity, as a public meeting often provides, for comments to be made on this application, and I'm going to invite those to do so in an orderly fashion. First, those who are in favor of the application, other than the applicant, may take the opportunity to approach the podium and speak to council on this matter. Anyone wishing to do that? Okay. Are you coming forward in favor of this application?
In favor, but just one
Questions? Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in favor of.
Can we ask you as well, sir, to just identify yourself and your address?
I'm sorry. My name is Aldo Fusina. I am the owner of the adjacent property, which is the church, the old church at 211 Winstanley. And so I'm in favor of the application, even though it doesn't have the regular amount of land that usually is required. But I'd like to see the property used and taken care of. So I'm pleased to see that. I attended the last meeting and I had a couple of questions and concerns. And I think they've all been met. I just want to make sure that everything is still as it was before. My understanding is that the applicant, there was last time we saw a schedule of, or architectural plan of the actual building where it would be. They were going to remove a number of feet because the driveway otherwise would not have been wide enough. Nathan, is that still the case? Is that still the case?
Mr. Garland, do you know?
Through the mayor, it does appear so. I flip back to that reference sketch. That's that outline in green. That little, I'll say, hatch portion appears to be removed from the existing building to provide
Okay,
the parking space.
that's great, fantastic. Okay, so I'm pleased about that. The other couple of things that I just want to remind the applicant and council is that I have the well water traversing the applicant's property. And we've discussed this before, and I don't mind giving him water, but I also provide water for the next neighbor over. So when they do the septic, I just want to make sure that they're very careful that they're not going to rupture any of the pipes, not only for themselves but also for the neighbor. We don't want that to happen. Also, because it's very tight to get to the back to make the septic system, um, I would hope that they can find an alternative way because there is an empty property that's actually been sold behind. They don't use because my property, the septic system goes pretty well to the lot line, and I don't want big trucks to be going over the septic system because that can be very easily damaged. So just a word of caution there. Also, regarding that catch basin that Nathan mentioned, nobody seems to know what that catch basin is about. I've asked a number of people uh, from here. I haven't been able to get quite an answer on that. My concern is since we don't know where it's going, if it's going south, north, east, west, is it possible that it traverses uh, the applicant's property? And if it's catch basin, I'm assuming it's to get rid of the excess water. So I just want to make sure that catch basin is not damaged because obviously it's there for a purpose, which I think is because it's a low spot. I think it's basically to get the water away. But nobody seems to be aware of exactly where the water is going. I don't know if engineers could figure that out, but nonetheless, whatever the case is, just be aware that that catch basin obviously has conduits that bring water somewhere. And during the construction of the septic system, I just don't want that to be damaged. Um, I'm glad that there's a survey, um, and one of my requests was that there be stakes, iron stakes in the ground. I haven't seen them, but that's okay. Just please be mindful of where now the applicant has their own survey to know where the demarcation line is. So again, with that caveat, uh, I'm happy to consent to the applicant and wish them the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Staff, do you have any response to the issue of the catch basin at the back? Do we know what that's about? Mr. Garland, do you know?
No, through your worship, I don't know what the catch basin is for. There's the easement section along there that may provide some conduit path. I see Snow Snell.
Okay, CO Snow.
Typically in a sort of unserviced area, private catch basins were placed at some time by a number of property owners. We would usually refer to them under the mutual agreement drain. Quite often, we don't have record of them or which direction they go. There are several of them in Moncton. They're not part of either a municipal drain. They probably outlet into municipal drain, but they're not part of the municipal infrastructure. They're a private system installed, probably long before my time.
Just for my information, how would a private homeowner or landowner find out about the agreements and the infrastructure that's there so that they don't cause a little bit of damage and create the headache that the petitioner has just asked about?
There may not be a written agreement. I'm not aware of. If there is an easement, there might be one on title, but that would be the responsibility of the property owners. And it's usually through mutual agreement of the property owners that the drain is looked after and maintained.
Okay. Interesting information. I'm not sure I know what to make of it, but to your comments, sir, I trust that there will be careful execution in terms of when and if this is passed, and it will be in the hands of the owner of the property to make sure that they comply with all reasonable actions to preserve the integrity of the area, including your home and the neighbors' homes and so forth.
Yeah, the information that I previously had gotten was that, in fact, the um, the concern that I have is the catch basin is a low spot on my property. So my concern is that if there's any damage, that water is going to stay there. So I just want to make sure that nothing is disturbed in terms of getting the water away from my property because, again, there's a septic system there. Access water septic system is no good, but just from a health point of view, from a use point of view, we need to get the water away. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And I think some of that is dealt with a little bit later on in the process with building permits and things like that. No, Mr. Garland?
Through your worship, some of it is addressed through the building permit side of things. There is a requirement to maintain positive drainage away from the buildings, etc. I will know that drainage is tricky on private property. There is some challenges around that and management of drainage on private property, just because typically the drainage management is the requirement of the private property owner to maintain and manage that. So some of these older drainage systems, while they may have served a purpose at the time, always has that challenge as well too. So yeah, this would be a bit of a quagmire. Ideally, it services all the properties back there. So hopefully, should any kind of impacts occur, you can pass the note along to the contractor and the owner right now to let them know that it's back there and that it's in their best interest as well too to maintain and manage that.
Thank you, that makes sense. Are there any in attendance, first, before we close off on that, anyone else in favor in attendance who wishes to speak other than the applicant? Okay, next we turn to those who are opposed to this action. Are there any in this meeting who wish to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, I'm not seeing any. There is the opportunity for the applicant's agent to speak if so desired. Do we have any indication of that, Clerk Carter? No, okay. So we don't believe that will be taken advantage of, and this is the opportunity for other colleagues on council to ask questions about this application. Anyone wishing to do so? Okay. So statutory declaration as follows. Notice of the decision of council will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Council's decision is subject to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. And with that, this public meeting is adjourned. All right, meeting number 2, I'll call to order at 7:33 p.m. Welcome to those who are attending this public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for proposed amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. This is a statutory public meeting to deal with an application for zoning bylaw amendment number Z11-2024 submitted by Monteith Ritzma Phillips Professional Corporation on behalf of Sean Youngblood for property legally described as Lot 14, Concession 6, Wallace Ward, Municipality of North Perth, known municipally as 5467, line 89. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding this application will be considered by council. Those in attendance remotely wishing to make comment concerning this application will be given the opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal council's decision in this matter must make verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to council. Those wishing to receive notice of the decision regarding this application must notify the clerk via email, telephone, or by utilizing the public meeting sign-in sheet located at the back of the council chambers, giving their mailing address and telephone number. At this time, I'll call for a summary of this application, which will be offered again by Nathan Garland, planner for the County of Perth, who works on North Perth files. Mr. Garland, to you.
Thank you again, Mayor Kiesenberg, members of North Perth Council. I am here to present on zoning bylaw amendment Z11, 2024. The owner and applicant is Sean Youngblood. Staff are supportive of the application. Just for council's information, I'm just going to go through a short presentation here to highlight these additional items. This is a subject rezoning requirement as part of a consent application. So this is a condition of consent that had previously come to North Perth Council. The requested severance was approximately 1.9 acres and the retained land was approximately 101.56 acres. This is a requested rezoning for both the severed and retained lands. I will note that on the next slide. As mentioned, the proposed severed lands are approximately the 1.9 acres. It is requested to be a special residential zone to only permit a house and no barns, etc. And then it does also recognize the reduced lot frontage at the front of the property. The requested retained lands is the agricultural area primarily, and that is to prohibit a house from being located there in the future. And that is the standard A62 recommendation request. No concerns or questions have been proposed by the public or any adjacent landowners around the requested rezoning. The owner resides in an adjacent residence, just actually right next door to the existing parcel. Services are to remain private, both water and sewer, and then the requested rezoning is to recognize a reduced lot frontage. That's just because of the keyhole type shape to only allow for the driveway access through there. It got to about 8.5 meters, just to minimize the amount of agricultural loss. Just a couple pictures. So the severed area will be along that crop row going back there with the house, and the barn that was previous there that has been taken down. So there's just a house with an outbuilding, a shed at the back. The property and the severance is supported through the provincial policy statement and North Perth official or the County Perth official plan and North Perth zoning bylaw. As mentioned, staff are supportive, and this is a condition of consent application B1524, which had previously come to North Perth Council. So it is my recommendation that North Perth receive the report and that North Perth consider the approval of the application. I'm happy to address or answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. We'll turn to the clerk to tell us about the information that has been issued regarding the notice of public meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg. Notice of this public meeting was given on September 7th via mail to neighboring property owners. It was also posted on the subject property and the North Perth website.
Great, thank you. I did hear Mr. Garland say that no comments or reports have been received. Do you want to just nod your head and confirm that?
Correct. Through you, Mr. Mayor, no comments or concerns have been received.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. All right. This is the opportunity then for anyone attending for this purpose to offer comments about this application. We'll do this in an orderly fashion. First, those who are in favor of the application other than the applicant will be heard now. Anyone wishing to take advantage of that? Seeing none, any who are opposed to this application, I step forward to the podium and present to this council at this time. I'm not seeing anyone who has expressed that indication. Next then is the applicant or the applicant's agent, if available, and they wish to make comment, they may do so. Okay, I'm not seeing anything there. Colleagues, do you have any questions or comments to make on this application? I'm not seeing an indication of that. So as usual, the statutory declaration, notice of the decision of council will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Council's decision is subject to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Number 3, and Mr. Nurdum anticipated that. I'm impressed. It was the bang of the gavel. Yeah, I got it figured out. All right. So welcome to our third Planning Act meeting of the evening. This is a public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for a proposed amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. It's going to look awfully familiar. This is a statutory public meeting to deal with an application for a zoning bylaw amendment number Z12-2024 submitted by Matthew and Amy Klumpenhauer for property legally described as Part Lot 51 and Lot 52, Concession 5, Wallace Ward, Municipality of North Perth, municipally known as 6792 Perth Line 88. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding this application will be considered by council. Those in attendance remotely wishing to make comment concerning this application will be given the opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal council's decision in this matter must make verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to the council. Those wishing to receive notice of the decision regarding this application must notify the clerk via email, telephone, or by utilizing the public meeting sign-in sheet located again at the back of the council chambers on the desk there, giving their mailing address and telephone number. Again, I'm going to call for a summary of the application. You're getting used to this process, everybody in the room, right? This will be offered again by Nathan Garland. Mr. Garland, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kazenberg, members of the North Perth Council. I think all the applicants might still come in between winter wheat and soybean and corn, so that's why you'll see another one of these again. So I'm here to present Z12 2024. The owners and applicants are Matthew and Amy Klumpenhauer. For Council's reference, Council will recognize this application from the severance application that previously came to Council. Staff are supportive of the request, but I am here to highlight the additional notes in the presentation. The requested lands to be severed were approximately 2.84 acres in size. It did include the house and the front yard area along with a number of outbuildings on the subject lands. The retained lands are approximately 99.26 acres in size. It is over top of two different lots just because of the nature of the property that is bisected by the road. So just a little bit of a odd-shaped parcel, but just the fact that it's at the north end of the township. Just the aerial photo of the subject land. So there's the requested rezoning. It is a fairly standard one for surplus farm severances. So the request is to go to an A-1 for the house lands, and that is to recognize that only the house will be permitted on an undersized agricultural lot. And then the requested amendment to the agricultural lands is to prohibit a house from being located there in the future. So it would only be used for agriculture. No concerns or comments as have been expressed by any of the neighbors or adjacent landowners. Just for council's notes and consideration, there is a requirement still that as part of the conditions that the applicants sell the outside land, the agricultural land, because they do not own a adjacent parcel or another farm. So one of the requirements for a surplus farm is that it be transferred to an agricultural owner. So they have come forward with a condition of this, and they are looking to transfer those lands to the adjacent farm. Services are to remain private, so that includes the well and septic. No additional services are required. And the barn, as mentioned previously, is to be repurposed for storage only and currently houses no livestock, so there is no livestock on the subject property. Just a couple photos there, so that's a slide profile of the house and the outbuildings in the barn that are located on the property. And just a little picture of the driveway that's looking down there with some trees on the left-hand side, and then the property line, the future property line being considered is immediately on the eastern side on the west, or the eastern side to the right, sorry. As noted, the policies do support this application and the severance that was previously considered, and staff are supportive of the current rezoning. They are at this stage. This is a condition of consent application B3824. And so it is my recommendation that North Perth receive this report and that council consider this application for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. I'm going to turn to the clerk to offer comment on whether we've received any comments and so forth, and as well I'll ask you about the notice of public meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Kazenberg. Notice of this public meeting was mailed on September 17th. Additionally, it was posted on the subject property and the website. We have not received any correspondence.
Just checking with Planner Garland on the correspondence or reports.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. No additional correspondence or concerns raised.
Okay. All right. This is the opportunity for those who attended this public meeting for the purpose of providing input to council to do so. First, we'll call on those who are in favor of the application other than the applicant, if any. I'm not seeing any, so second, we call on those who may be opposed to this application. You may step forward at this time, should you wish. We're not seeing any of those, so let's turn now. The opportunity is extended to the applicant or the applicant's agent. Does anyone wish to take advantage of that opportunity? And next up is council. Questions, comments from council on this matter? Councillor Andresa.
Just a procedural comment. In the recommendations from this one and the last one, the elementary teacher in me is kind of gritting at the word receive. It's not spelled correctly. It should be CEIVE. Just a spelling error.
Thank you. My spell checker did not catch that, obviously. But yes, we can make that noted change.
The clerk is giving me the polite nod, so I think you're okay, Councillor Andreessen. Thank you. All right. Anyone else wishing to ask any questions or comments on council? All right. Notice of the decision of council will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Council's decision is subject to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting. All right. I'm going to declare our recess period during which the public meetings were held to be over and call our regular meeting back into properly constituted session. We have some resolutions to consider. We'll take them in the order that we heard the public meetings. So I have as item 8.1 a resolution for our consideration as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the report dated October 7th, 2024, titled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Z04-2023, affecting lands described as part lots 25, 26, and 69, Plan 273, Elma Ward, North Perth, 215 Winstanley Street, and that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves zoning Bylaw Amendment Z04-2023, affecting lands described as part lots 25, 26, and 69, Plan 273, Elma Ward, North Perth, 215 Winstanley Street, to rezone the lands from Institutional Zone IN to Special Hamlet Village Residential Zone HVR 11. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Blazek, thank you. Councillor Andreessen as our seconder. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. I will ask the clerk to note in the minutes that Councillor Nordum has stepped out for this next item, item 8.2, as previously declared. The resolution as follows: that North Perth Council receives the report dated October 7th, 2024, entitled North Perth Zoning Bylaw Amendment Z11-2024, submitted by Monteith Ritzma Phillips on behalf of Sean Youngblood, affecting lands described as Lot 14, Concession 6, Wallace Ward, in North Perth, municipally known as 5467 Line 89, and that North Perth Council approves zoning bylaw amendment Z11-24, affecting the lands described above to rezone the retained lands from agricultural A to agricultural special zone 62, A62, and special agricultural A83 for the severed lands. Can I call for a mover on this one? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Rothwell, thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And we'll wait for Councillor Nordum to assume his seat. Next is item 8.3. We have a resolution as follows: that North Perth Council receives the report dated October 7, 2024, entitled North Perth Zoning Bylaw Amendment Z12-2024, submitted by Matthew and Amy Klippenhauer, affecting lands described as part lot 51 and lot 52, concession 5, Wallace Ward, in North Perth, municipally known as 6792, Perth Line 88. And that North Perth Council approves zoning bylaw amendment Z12-24, affecting the lands described above to rezone the severed lands from agricultural zone A to special agricultural zone A62 and special agricultural zone A1 for the retained lands. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calloway, seconded by Councillor Nordum. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that also is carried. Thank you. We will now consider a delegation from a party with interest in our council's business or authority. I remind the delegation that in accordance with this council's procedural bylaw, a total time of 10 minutes per delegation is permitted, and that includes both presentation time and providing an opportunity for councilors to ask questions. A delegation is to present on the topic declared on the submitted request for delegation form, and deviation from the topic is not acceptable to the chair or to this council. The quorum is required. Further to my request that we maintain an atmosphere of respect and courtesy, I'll remind those delegating that they should not use the names of those who have not consented to such use. Tonight we have Mr. Pierre Chauvin of MHPC Planning, who wishes to address council about item 9.2.1 on tonight's agenda related to the proposed acceptance of an application under the Attainable Housing Community Improvement Plan. Mr. Chauvin is remote, and we invite him and welcome him to our meeting at this time.
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg and members of council. With me this evening is Nazar Mawani, who's with the development, who's Lifton Gardens at 965 Twom. Just here to support the recommendation. And I want to take this opportunity to thank your staff, particularly Jessica McLean, Sally McMullen, and Chris Snell, who've been very supportive and instrumental in assisting us in getting us to this point. This is, as you know, has been a development that's been before you for a number of years. We are so excited to tell you that we're very close to breaking ground or starting to break ground. And we are hoping to start this week, but there may be slight delays there in finishing up some final agreements. But this particular CIP grant will assist our client tremendously in helping reduce the costs of the development and bringing the necessary affordable and attainable housing that's desperately needed for the community. So with that, I just here to answer any questions. Myself or Nazar are here to answer any questions, and we're here in support of the staff recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chauvin, and acknowledging Mr. Mawani with us. Any questions, colleagues, before we finish this delegation session? Okay, I'm not seeing any indication of that. I'm going to assume that they may stay online or be available to us a little bit later, just in case. All right, thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 9 on our agenda. For item 9.1, we have one item from the operations department. As item 9.1.1, council is presented with a recommendation to proceed with the minor improvements warranted to the Doring Municipal Drain and to appoint GEI consultants as engineering contractors to prepare the report for this initiative. We'll call on Scott Richardson, our drainage superintendent, to provide us with an overview of what's lying ahead here. Mr. Richardson, welcome as always.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to consider a Section 78.5, so it's a minor improvement for the Doring Municipal Drain. This is for the section that crosses the north part of 34, concession 15. The previous report for this portion of the Doring was prepared by John Roger, he's an Ontario land surveyor back in 1931. In 2015, the GM Blue Plan did prepare a report to upgrade the top end of the drainage system with a new tile. The request for 78.5 of the Drainage Act was received on the September 26th. The request is for realigning approximately 400 meters to run along the west side of the property and eliminate the culvert crossing that's there. The owner will be the owner will be responsible for all the costs associated with this project. Pretty simple. That's it.
Thanks, Mr. Richardson. Colleagues, any questions or first comments on this matter? All right, I'm not seeing any, so let's consider the resolution as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth proceeds in accordance with Section 78.5 of the Drainage Act for the minor improvement of the Doring Municipal Drain, and further that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth appoints GEI consultants to investigate, design, and prepare a report for the Doring Municipal Drain. I call for mover, Councillor Rothwell, Councillor Johnston as our seconder. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is unanimously carried. Thank you, Mr. Richardson, as always. Let's turn to item 9.2, reports from the Strategic Initiatives Department. Item 9.2.1 brings forward a recommendation to Council to approve a tax increment equivalency grant, or TEAG, to proponent Nizar Mawani and Kanalamika, Inc., based on its application for the same. I'm going to invite Jessica McLean, our Manager of Strategic Initiatives, to address this item. Welcome, Ms. McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg and Council. As Council is aware, the North Perth Attainable Housing Community Improvement Plan was adopted in August, and the first application intake window opened up on August the 28th. So since that time, we have received an application for Phase 1 of the Listowel Gardens development, and the CIP Implementation Committee has met to review that application and evaluate it. A report to Council seeking approval is required as the application involves the TEAG program. So the Council report does include the relevant project details, including the number of affordable attainable rental units that are proposed in Phase 1 of the project, and it's 56% of the 89-unit apartment building. The applicant is also seeking certification under the Zero Carbon Building Design Standard, which would meet the CIP definition of a sustainable building. The implementation committee approved the applicant for the maximum benefits of the planning and building permit fee grant, which is $5,000, dependent on the successful execution of the required CIP agreements. And then the committee is also recommending that North Perth Council approves Phase 1 of the Listowel Gardens project for the 10-year TEAG program, with the ability to receive the 15-year TEAG if the conditions noted in the report are met and dependent on the successful execution of the required CIP agreements. For Council's understanding, our Treasurer has completed a financial analysis showing the estimated tax impact of the 10 and 15-year TEAG programs, which is attached to the report. And this is based on 56% of the 89-unit apartment building being affordable and attainable units. So it's important to note that this is an estimate, but based on the best information we have available, and the actual amount of taxes will be determined once the property is fully assessed. It's proposed that the funding to offset these costs is to be sourced from the annual CIP operating budget, and future increases to this budget line may be required to ensure adequate funding remains available to support the other annual CIP program activities. And I can answer any questions Council may have regarding the report.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. Colleagues, questions or first comments? Councillor Nordham.
Thanks, Mayor Kiesenberg, and thanks for the report, Jessica. Will this eat up a fair amount of our CIP budget?
Through the mayor, the budget at this time for 2024 is $75,000. So it would eat up a proportion of that. And then moving forward, when the annual budget for the CIP is proposed, we'll have to keep in mind what the commitment is for this project.
Anyone else with the questions or comments? Councillor Roth.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd, and through you, thanks, Jessica, for the report. Specifically, it's mentioned about the geothermal system, and the recommendation is that for the full TEAG, so that's 15 years, as I understand. What is the estimated useful life of the geothermal system? Is there some concern about that, or are we expecting that it would be well beyond the 15 years? Thank you.
Through the mayor, I am not sure what the useful life would be, but there isn't a concern that it wouldn't last throughout that cycle. We just wanted to have that listed in the agreement so that we know at the municipal level it is being used. to meet that sustainable target.
Do you want me to ask the consultant if the consultant has any information about that? So I don't know if at present you can hear me, Mr. Chauvin, but if you have any information about the durability of the geothermal system that's proposed, will it extend? I assume the question is beyond the 15 years of tax increment equivalency grant.
Yes, through you, Mayor, Mr. Mayor. I believe my client Nazar has the answer to that, and I'll let him speak to that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mawani. Did you want to weigh in on that one?
Yes, good evening, the council. We have looked at the thermal project, and it's a 25-year contract with the supplier, and we contract that the miners have worked from 1979 to now, and little maintenance required, and part of the is for them to project.
Okay, we had some difficulty interpreting that. There may have been some bandwidth problem between you and us that was interfering with the ability to get good sound there.
Yeah,
Mr. Chauvin, did you get anything from that? Or
I can repeat.
okay, give it a shot. If not, perhaps you can write a text response briefly in the text chat.
Good evening, Mayor. The geothermal is mandated by the ministry, and the operator has to have a license, and we also have a permit from the Perth County, and they will be able to see in that report that this will survive more than 10 years.
Okay, so the duration is at least 10 years.
Yeah, at least 10 years for sure. What they've told us is 25 years.
Okay, so window. I assume then that at 10 years, there would be every effort to maintain this so that it could get closer to the 25 years, right?
Yeah. We are investing almost 33 million. CMHC will not authorize something that is not going to be. They'll be doing more vetting of this because they're putting the money.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense to me. All right, anyone else with questions or first comments on this? Okay, let's consider the resolution then. Ms. McLean, thank you. As follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves Nizar Rawani Kanalamika Inc. Phase 1 of Listle Gardens for the 10-year TEAG with the ability to receive the 15-year TEAG if the following conditions are met and dependent on the successful execution of the required CIP agreements. 1, approval is received for the building's geothermal system, and the geothermal system is constructed and used for the entirety of the TEAG program. And 2, proof of complete certification under the Canada Green Building Council's Zero Carbon Building Design Standard or equivalent. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Deputy Mayor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have the vote. And that is carried. And I do want to point out that's pretty monumental what we've just done. So I'm quite pleased. I think, I've always styled myself, I suppose, the housing mayor, and here we are, we're getting some housing done. It would appear through the use of our CIP program, which affordable housing done. Thank you, Councillor Johnston, exactly right. So we're very excited. I'm very excited. I hope the rest of council is as feeling as pumped as I am on that one. All right. Let's turn next to item 9.2.2, sorry. Council is invited to expand the inclusion area of the recently approved attainable housing CIP. It would appear that some interest has been expressed in the program, but limitations in the areas of relevance have prompted discussions about being a bit more area expansive. So we have Jessica McLean still with us. Ms. McLean, you want to bring us up to speed on this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this report is also in relation to the Attainable Housing CIP. When Council did adopt the Community Improvement Plan back in August, a bylaw was passed that designated Listowel and Atwood as the primary CIP areas, and Downstown and Moncton as the secondary CIP areas. At that time, there was discussion on whether the financial incentive programs could or would be expanded to include the other areas of the municipality. So just as an update on that, following some discussion at the CIP Implementation Committee, staff are recommending now that the secondary CIP area be expanded to include the remaining hamlets and villages within the municipality of North Perth. Although these areas do have some limited access to housing-related amenities, they offer properties with rather large lots that can accommodate additional dwelling units nicely. Moving forward, if council does decide to move forward with this expansion, Listowel and Atwood would continue to be prioritized in terms of the implementation of the CIP financial incentive programs, as they are the primary CIP area. And if council is in support of expanding the secondary CIP area, there is a bylaw at later on in the agenda to amend the designated areas.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. Questions or first comments? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you through you, Mayor Kaysenberg, and thank you to Jessica for all your work with this. There were some residents who were quite concerned and wanting to see this expansion into the other hamlets. Do you foresee that this will definitely help those residents that I'm sure were contacting you as well to, possibly include them in the program?
Through the mayor, yes, it will at the most make them eligible to be within the designated areas. And then if they're able to meet all the other general eligibility criteria and the criteria of the programs they're applying to, they should be successful.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else with questions or first comments? Councillor Bozek?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Kaysenberg. I've expressed my concerns before about investing taxpayer dollars in housing outside of our most urban centers and the complications that can come with that through my own personal experiences. And I really like the CIP program, but those concerns remain the same as far as expanding into some of our smaller centers. And so I cannot support this proposal.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with questions or first comments before we consider the resolution? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so the resolution as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the expansion of the Attainable Housing Secondary CIPA, I assume that means area, it amends bylaw number 61-2024 to include the additional areas. Can I call for a mover on this one? Councillor Andreessen, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. As item 9.2.3, staff have brought back to the table additional information pertaining to the installation of a community flagpole or flagpoles for the flying of flags in recognition of the work and efforts of local not-for-profits and charities of national and local character. I welcome Jessica McLean, again, our Manager of Strategic Initiatives, to elaborate on the advice received in the staff recommendation. Ms. McLean.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In July, Council had requested that the community flagpole discussion be referred to the North Perth Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee for consideration and comment. The committee did discuss Council's request at their most recent meeting on September the 17th. Committee discussion focused on the symbolic importance of having community flags being flown on flagpoles located at the North Perth Municipal Administration Office versus other locations within the municipality. It was the committee's recommendation that the municipality does not proceed with the installation of a community flagpole in a separate location and that community flags continue to be flown at the municipal office. In addition, the committee also discussed the potential revisions to the North Perth flag and banner policy with the recommendation that council request staff to investigate updates to the policy. If council does decide to go in this direction, staff will review policies from other municipalities, consult with other municipal departments, specifically the clerk's office, and seek the advice of the DEI advisory committee prior to bringing a revised draft policy back to council for consideration. I can answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. Questions or first comments? Councillor Blazek.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. As you guys know, I sit on that committee. And I actually wanted to comment today because I went into that committee meeting in support of putting a community flagpole in another area of town. And after sitting in on the discussion and hearing about the experiences and the opinions of community members, I changed my mind. I straight up changed my mind. I was made to see that the idea of, giving somebody our acceptance, like yes, you're welcome here, we accept you here, we love you here, we include you here, and then taking it back. Even though we're putting your flag in another place, you're still welcome in this community, but not like right here. And how that can be perceived. Because Truth and Reconciliation Day was very recently, if we decided to fly the Truth and Reconciliation flag here, and then, the next season said, you know what, actually, we've made a mistake, we've changed our mind, this isn't the place to fly your flag. I can't imagine how that would make that community feel. Very much like this municipality is not an inclusive place for them. And 2 steps backwards is not the direction that I would like to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blazek. Anyone else with questions or first comments? Deputy Mayor Kellum.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Kiesenberg, and thank you, Jessica, for your comments, and to the DEI committee for their presentation input on this. And in respect, I appreciate your comments as well. However, that being said, I stand my ground that I am not in favor of flags being flown at the municipal building. I believe they should be somewhere else in a community location. We discussed the Welcome Center, the old PUC building. I believe there's lots of space there. We can have several flags there. And the last point, it's similar to the ATV thing. I've had many people contact me that are in support of flags, not in support of the location at the municipal building as late as 3:30 this afternoon. And I have not had one person contact me for the flag to stand alone at the municipal building. So I would not support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. First of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Blazek for your comments, and I would certainly like to thank the DEI committee for making recommendations that have come back. But I have to agree with Deputy Mayor Kellum that I don't perceive it as necessarily being a point of segregation or separation from the actual municipality. The location that was discussed or whatever, I think there's an opportunity to bring more prominence at a dedicated location by itself. So with that said, I'm, as the motion is, I'm not in favor either for this motion this evening.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. To begin, I feel that this issue has really come forward because there is a lot of discomfort with flying not just any flag, but the pride flag. And that seems to occur every June here at our municipal office. And it's okay to have some personal discomfort with some of these issues. And I respect that we'll have residents with some personal discomfort. But I don't think it's okay to have our discomfort get in the way of being inclusive. Our federal and provincial government offices, buildings fly the pride flag and have done so since 2016. Municipal government partners also do the same. And 8 years later, we're having this discussion again and debate again. And I don't think it's our perception. I think we need to think about how it's perceived by those that it affects. We have to think about their perceptions. How does the LGBTQ2 plus community perceive that? That's the perception we have to think about. I just want to say that we do have a dedicated committee that's a representative of our community, and it's their purpose to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion in a very reflective and educated way. Their recommendation comes from an important voice in this community, and that voice represents and understands the challenges of acceptance that the LGBTQ2 plus community faces. I believe that their recommendation to keep the current flag policy in place shows respect and inclusion for those in this community that identify as LGBTQ2 plus. By moving and installing the flagpole for the pride flag to be at another location actually shows that the North Perth municipal government doesn't value those who identify differently. Moving the flags away from this seat of government creates actually more discomfort. It creates a disconnect and it creates a divide. And it pushes the LGBTQ2 plus community and their interests away to a park. It pushes those interests away to an arena or to a chamber office and away from us as a municipality and our government. And if we don't have the courage to fly the flag at this office, then are we really representing those residents with those identities? Moving and installing the flagpole elsewhere shows that we aren't comfortable and we're not inclusive. It shows that we are okay with the pride flag only if it's flown elsewhere, anywhere else but this property here. And I don't think that that's a respectful way to represent all of our constituents. They have requested the pride flag to be flown here, not at the chamber, not at the arena, and not at the park. They want it here. They want to be included by us, the government officials. And I don't support taxpayer money being used for moving or installing flagpoles for this purpose. Our role as a municipal council is not to push away the LGBTQ2 plus community. Our role is to represent everyone regardless of how they identify themselves. And that's through a lens that embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as a councillor, I support all of my constituents, including those that identify differently. I don't support moving or installing new flagpoles so that the pride flag can be flown elsewhere instead of at this municipal office. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Andreessen. Anyone else wishing to make comment at this point? Councillor Blazek, you want round two? Let me just see if anyone else wants a round one here. Okay, Councillor Blazek.
Thank you very much for the second opportunity to speak, Mayor Kasenberg. I just thought it was really important to note, thank you so much, Councillor Andreessen, and to my colleagues for their comments. The discussion around the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee table, while it included the LGBTQ 2 plus community, wasn't just focused on one flag. The recommendation that staff investigate changes to our flag flying policy would allow for many other potential flags to be flown here as well. And I think that those are an important part of the discussion. This discussion isn't just about one flag. Well, it is currently just about one flag. There are other flags that we as a municipality are not flying and perhaps should be. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that the conversation was about more than just one flag.
Thank you, Councillor Blazek. Deputy Mayor Callum, round two for you.
Yes, and the supplemental, and yes, thank you very much. And just to be clear, I wasn't speaking on behalf of One Flag either. I'm speaking on behalf of Flags All moving forward. And a neighboring municipality, I believe South Huron, had this similar discussion, and they now have a community flag pole that's located downtown in the Parquet, downtown in Exeter, and it works just fine. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make comment? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Thank you, through you, Mayor Kaesberg. When this discussion started and came forward, I looked at it as it was never about one group or one flag or anything like that. I feel that it's truly in our best interest, and we can celebrate the fact that we're willing to put a community flagpole somewhere for everyone in our community to use. Not one group, not one flag, everyone. And I realize there's different views on everything in this community, and we live in a very diverse community now with different groups of people. So I think that we could have something to celebrate here if we were to erect a community flagpole and make it in a prominent place. Like, you can definitely see a lot more at the PUC building if it was to be put out there prominently with a nice sidewalk and floor bed around it. So I'm in support of erecting a community flagpole for everyone to use, as well as looking at our flag and banner flying policy as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anstett.
Thank you, Mayor Kaesberg, through you, and thanks, colleagues, for all your discussion on this. And I'll just be brief because I know there's probably some other members of council that wanted to chime in on this as well. I just want to be clear, the thing that this is about flying flags. Full stop. Flying flags in our community. It's 2024. North Perth is I feel, is a very open, diverse municipality. We welcome all comers. This is about flying flags. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anstett. Anyone else wishing to make comment? Okay, well, I do have a few words too, and I'm not sure whether to save them until we have a motion on the floor or otherwise, but I would like to say a few things about this. You know, colleagues, all of us, I trust that each of you feels that sort of same weight of responsibility for our entire community that I do. And I often find myself struggling with the decisions that we face. Sometimes they're even heart-wrenching in terms of their impacts on people. And in fact, that's kind of how my politics has worked. I've been sort of driven by who do we harm, how do we harm, and can we avoid that harm or risk in the broadest strokes and considerations. I can tell you, and it's a very brief rabbit hole, sorry, that right now the county is grappling with whether to continue and put forward funding for PC Connect, the transit service. And this is a hot topic because there are a range of people who will be harmed if the county decides to defund this and wrap up the operations of this. So we seem to live in times where all of us have heavy things that we weigh in on and are in some cases caused to make a decision about. Our decisions certainly become more complex when we entangle them with generational differences in belief, in religious and spiritual values that intersect with the decisions, with political spectrum thinking, and more. Yet I, with you, my council colleagues, work towards a better community. And while occasional mistakes are made, progress is inevitable because of the ever-changing body of knowledge of and about humanity. This change comes about despite voices who feel that everything should be just the way it was. So I can appreciate some of the comments that have been made tonight. In fact, Councillor Anstett, you talked about this is about flags. But I want to connect a few dots here that I can't help but connect. There has been until this month exactly one flag that the corporation has been petitioned to fly in accordance with our flag policy. We granted that request 3 years ago and annually since then in accordance with policy. And sure, there were voices 3 years ago that objected to the effort, voices that seem to my view to be a little bit behind the times. For the Parliament of Canada has flown the Pride flag since 2015, Councillor Andreessen, that's what I got. And the Legislative Assembly of Ontario has flown that flag since 2014. we were in many respects a little bit late to the party when it came to flying the pride flag in our community on behalf of our corporation. Here's my concern. The community flagpole located away from this building can only be interpreted as an objection to that flag. And that is, to me, rather odious. So let's tackle this for a moment, if you will, indulge me. The pride flag's purpose is to remind people to be kind to everyone, even to those who you perceive are not part of your tribe. It reminds us that progress is being made towards being more inclusive as a society and that sometimes you must recognize past wrongs. Our land acknowledgement is of related nature, calling us to an urgent need for reconciliation with Canada's First Peoples. This particular flag, when raised, is to my eyes consistent with our espoused values as a community of character. It is consistent with our wonderful charter that pertains to diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. We will not change. There are those among us who are different than us. In fact, those differences, in my opinion, are strengths to be celebrated and not moved somewhere else, possibly less prominent. So for those who are voicing their opposition to flying flags, particularly the pride flag at Town Hall, and you're out there, I can only say that I believe the time has come for you to face the realities of our world and stop pushing those who are 2S LGBTQIA back into the closet, into places where you don't have to accept or engage or embrace diversity. Our municipal office, this building, is the agreed upon center of power and home of this corporation. The council meets here, people pay taxes here, petitions for our action come here, and our corporation frankly promotes kindness in community, even if we must increase taxes from time to time, a small joke. Ours is a corporation which employs gay men and lesbian women and those of many other equity deserving groups. No other building, no other facility in our corporation's portfolio is singularly as focal, as meaningful, and effective as this place. So, to my colleagues who are contemplating wanting to spend taxpayer dollars on a new flagpole or flagpoles somewhere off this property at 330 Wallace Avenue North, I ask you to consider that you are watering down our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I would even argue if we are so passionate to move flags away from this focal point, the one that we all agree on, we can only correct the chilling message by an erection of flags in many other municipal facilities so the whole community still can understand our commitment to kindness and equity and diversity and inclusion. If we discontinue flag flying here at this building, we cannot in good conscience not erect flags in Atwood, in Moncton, in Critchville, and in Trowbridge. There are consequences to putting this flag on a pole that is somewhere else. Just give me a second. In my reach out to the community, and it was quite different than the one reported by Deputy Mayor Callum, I have heard from some who have said this will leave them feeling less safe in a time where safety for the 2S LGBTQIA community is already compromised and being overly discussed in public domain. I have heard from one who believes that a choice like this is giving in to hate, which is notably a crime, and who points out that notions of neutrality earlier presented to this council during a delegation by Mr. Weber, who was an unsuccessful candidate in the last election, are largely mistaken given our need to correct for long-standing wrong treatment in our society. I have heard that since we have flown the flag there now for 3 years, and the sky has not fallen, that we are just restoking a culture war that is unnecessary. I have heard that taking actions to get that flag away from Town Hall is petty and unkind, not words that I like associated with my community or this corporation. I have heard that given our 3-year run of that flag, we will be sending a message to the 2S LGBTQIA community that they are not welcome in our community, as some of our colleagues have alluded to. Given a history of vandalism of pride flags, I was also reminded that the location here, in the presence of the police office in this building, ensures that we manage practically against those who hate this symbol and will commit acts of vandalism to put a stop to it. I have been reminded that this corporation is committed to labor force and healthcare professional promotional and recruitment efforts that suggest a progressive and welcoming community. And then there's this action that counters our positioning for our new doctor candidates, nurses, and many other needed professionals. That voice even suggested that it is important for us to ask ourselves, would you decline help from someone who is gay or belonging to some other equity observing group because of that difference, that identity? I have been reminded in my consultations, and I'm cautious here, about the story of the Good Samaritan. I hesitate in some ways to raise stories from Scripture because this should be a place where we separate religion from state, but it is a powerful story because of its reminder that otherness is real and should be treated with great kindness. From my vantage point, this story reminds us that despite our differences, the right choice is to be charitable, forgiving, and non-judgmental. While having lots of differences from the man lying wounded and bleeding in the street, it was the foreigner, the alien, the one who is different, who bound the wounds, cared for the hurt, and empowered good. Perhaps this is all a bit too dramatic for my colleagues. I apologize if it feels a little dramatic. But for me, the story resonates strongly in this decision. We are here to build a better, kind community. This can be motivated by a range of values, including Christian, Hindu, Muslim, and secular values. Finding a way to live together to support each other is our call in public life, and we're not going to achieve that by aggravating historical prejudices. Our staff don't like this proposal of a new flagpole and have told us so. Our DEI committee don't like this proposal and they have told us so. It's decision time, and I'm standing on the side that says that flying flags here at the municipal seat of power, whether that flag is in support of farmers or Indigenous people or causes like the United Way or the Canadian Cancer Society or the MS Society or, yes, Pride, has no cons other than it aggravates a few folks who complain that we are giving too much to the group enjoying that boon. To that premise, I say nonsense. Anyone else? Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands raised, so let's consider the resolution as submitted as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the report entitled Community Flagpole DEI Advisory Committee Review as information, and that Council directs staff to not proceed with the installation of a community flagpole in a separate location, and community flags continue to be flown at the Municipal Administration Office, and that Council requests staff to investigate updates to the policy for flying banners and flags with the assistance of the North Perth DEI Advisory Committee, with a report brought back to Council in early 2025. Can I call for a move by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Blazek? Thank you. Further discussion or debate or comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so let's call the vote.
My vote didn't come up. I'm in favor.
Okay, Councillor Rothwell is in favor. We're missing one, I think. Okay, and that is defeated 4-6. Thank you, Ms. McLean. Let's consider reports next from the Corporate Services Department under item 9.3 of our agenda. As item 9.3.1, Council is provided with an update on inputs to Budget 2025 with responses to vision concepts submitted by members of Council. Treasurer Ashton Romani will speak to the report, which has come to the table largely as information. Welcome, Mr. Romani.
Good evening, Mayor Kaisenberg and members of Council. So before you tonight are the budget visioning requests submitted by Council for the upcoming fiscal year. This year, as part of a new approach, the requests were submitted online with the form requesting on how the proposals align with the municipality strategic plan and budget guiding principles. So in an effort to streamline the process, staff has summarized the proposals and provided additional clarification where needed. Following this, a management team did meet and prepared a coordinated response along with those proposals summaries. As you'll see in the report, a number of these proposals have already been incorporated into the forthcoming budget, while others have an action plan to address them accordingly. Proposals and their corresponding responses are listed in the order they were received and don't follow any prioritization. Since this is slightly a new approach to the budget visioning, we're also open to any feedback regarding the process. Thank you, and we welcome any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roman. Any questions or first comments on this report? The detail is, of course, in the written document. Anyone wishing to make comment? Okay. I have a resolution then for our consideration as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the 2025 Council Budget Visioning Responses Report for information. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Nordum. Thank you. Discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote.
Todd, I'm in favor.
And Councillor Rothwell is in favor, recording a manual vote, and so that is carried. Thank you. All right, that gets us past our reports from departments. Let's turn our attention to council report requests for item 10. Do any members of council wish to request reports of our staff or of our committees at this time? Deputy Mayor Kellum.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor Kaysenberg. Recently, I've had several comments regarding success of our hometown golfer, Corey Connors. Residents have reached out about that we should be celebrating him and notable, maybe a location or locations that we could erect a sign of some point to recognize him. I've had some family members step up and talk to me, and I would mind if council could come back to some locations, whether it's on municipal property heading towards the golf course. And once that report comes back, I have no problem reaching out to the family to discuss it with them, as I know them quite well. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, want to respond to this before we consider whether we go with direction here? Do you want direction?
I'd have to do some research, but I believe the only issue we've had is Moncton's recognition of Corbin Smith, which I do believe we just permitted them permission. We did, but the community looked after paying for and erecting those signs. But I will confirm that before back in the staff report.
Okay, so do you want us to give you direction for a staff report on this?
Certainly, if that's the will of council.
Okay. Let's consider that then, a resolution to direct staff to bring forward a report on the possibility of creating a recognition opportunity for Corey Connors, our homegrown golfer who's achieved some pretty great success and is an amazing contributor to the community. Something like that, you can bring back a report on that. All right, moved by Deputy Mayor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Johnston. Any discussion or debate? Clerk's table with us. Let's have the vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to request a report at this hour? All right. For item 11, we have received no correspondence other than that received under the consent agenda for our consideration, which allows us to turn to consideration of bylaws that have been recommended to us for action. Tonight we have 5 of them. Let's note that Councillor Nordum is stepping out on this one again for his earlier declarations on pecuniary interest. The enabling resolution outlines for each bylaw their number and purpose. That was in your package. Before I read the resolution for the passing of these bylaws, does any councillor wish to extract one or more of them for a more fulsome consideration or an individual recorded vote? Anyone? Okay, so the omnibus enabling resolution as follows. That the following bylaws are hereby passed. 83-2023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 6-ZB-1999 as amended. 85-2024 being a bylaw to appoint a fire prevention officer. 86-2024 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 61-2024. Bylaw 87-2024 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 6-ZB-1999 as amended, and 88-2024 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 6-ZB-1999 as amended. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Duncan, you good for this one? All right, thank you. Councillor Ernst, that will be our seconder. I saw that hand wave. Yes, Carter.
The first one should be 83-2024,
No, okay,
2023.
well, it's 2023. I thought maybe we were having a holdover. All right. Okay, so we've corrected that in the enablement resolution. Any discussion or debate on these? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Let's invite Councillor Nordum to return to the table. We're not at the confirmatory yet, so you might as well come in. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Yeah. As item 13.1, do any councillors wish leave to give notice of motion this evening? Seeing no indication of same, let's move to item 14. For item 14, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or reflect well on North Perth at this time? Deputy Mayor Kellum.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mayor Kasenberg, council and members in the audience and whoever's watching. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to Toronto to Queen's Park to honor a firefighter by the name of Brian Tucker, who was employed with us, who passed away back in 2018. It was an amazing service. They etched 73 names on the stone. The guest speakers were amazing. And again, I went with Leanne, Brody, and Jordan, and we met Chief Pape and Deputy Chief McEwen there, and it was just great to see that Brian was so recognized and appreciated. I just wanted to share that with you, and if you wanted to see a brochure, I have it with me. Thank you.
Thank you to Deputy Mayor, and of course, this community is still, I think, hurting from the loss of Mr. Tucker. Councillor Andreessen.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg. Last Sunday, actually, Mayor Kasenberg and I attended a ceremony, and the ceremony was to honor the King Charles Coronation Medals. And here in North Perth, Michael Groves was honored as a volunteer firefighter with many years of service and was issued a coronation medal. And Deborah Ritchie, who has raised about $2 million worth of, $10 million, thank you, $10 million for charity, was also honored with the King Charles Coronation Medal. So great North Perth proud moments that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andreessen. Indeed. Councillor Rothwell and I had the opportunity to attend a symposium on housing in the last little bit, and it was a fascinating day with a number of solid representatives, thought leaders from other communities, and certainly the keynote speaker was a compelling planner who's worked both in Denmark and in Canada, and offered insights from the sort of two different perspectives, which was fascinating. So I think we came away with some learnings that were useful, and that you'll probably hear us chirp about from time to time in this meeting as we go forward. Anyone else? All right, thank you. We're now at agenda item number 15. We have no matters for consideration in a closed session meeting of council tonight. Indeed, because we didn't have anything to do in closed session, we have no report to make, and Councillor Nordum has decided to exit the chamber again in response to his earlier declaration of pecuniary interest. So here we are. Council has a mandated good practice acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called the confirmatory bylaw. I have a copy of a draft of one of those for us for our consideration. And the enablement resolution is as follows. Bylaw 89-2024 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth is hereby passed. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Anstett. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. And we invite Councillor Nordham back. He's getting his steps in tonight. I think that's the conclusion. You'll have to give us your Fitbit output so that we know what happened there. Councillors, we've completed deliberations and taken action on the business that came before us tonight. It is thus appropriate for us to consider adjournment. I have a resolution to that effect as follows, that the council meeting adjourns at 8:44 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, October 21st, 2024 at 7 p.m. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Duncan, thank you. Councillor Nordham will be our seconder. It's not debatable. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. To all of our constituents who are watching, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving and the best of that season. Don't eat too much is the general recommendation.